Hi, guys. My name is Hannah, and thanks for joining me for today's podcast episode of Nature's Wisdom. We are on Season 1, Episode 8, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite herbs, holy basil, or Tulsi is another name for this herb. And we're just going to do a deep dive into learning more about the personality of this plant, what it does, the actions, the affinities for the body. So we're going to do a deep dive on this plant, and I hope that you learn a lot today. So I'm going to be starting out by talking a little bit about the herb and some of the tastes of the herb, and then we'll get into some of the actions on the body and what it does and how we can actually use it. This herb is really fun because I have it growing in one of my raised garden bed boxes. And it's been really fun to just experiment with and see how I like it, see how it affects the body, see what the tastes are. So this herb, holy basil, is in the mint family. It's very versatile plant. You can use it for a lot of different things. And it's considered an Ayurvedic herb coming from the Indian climate, and that's where it is native. It is, like I said, in the mint family, so it has a very aromatic type of taste, and it has a really nice smell as well. Whenever you do taste a little leaf from the plant, you'll see that it has like a pungent flavor, but the aftertaste is kind of sweet, and it's really neat. So it's a good tasting herb. So a lot of people love holy basil. You can have it in a tea, and most people will like to drink it. And it has an essential oil called eugenol, and it is also in cloves, this essential oil. So if you go up to the plant and you smell it, you will have some of that clove-like smell that you're used to. So that's kind of neat. It's a fun way to recognize holy basil. Like I mentioned, it is native to India, and it's kind of gained its popularity in the American materia medica, and we've studied it a lot now here in the western side of herbalism, but it is native to Southeast Asia. It will grow in many locations though. It loves warm regions, so I am in the South, and it does pretty well here. We have a lot of warm weather. So again, it is pretty hardy and pretty versatile. But it is considered, which is interesting, one of the most sacred plants in Indian culture. So that's really neat that it's very special and holds a lot of value to that culture. So let's get into some of the actions of the plant and some of the affinities for the actual body and where it works and which organ systems it works on. So one of the first things is the circulatory system that I want to mention. So with aromatic plants like holy basil, like a lot of the mint family plants, they have very pungent qualities to them that as far as the taste can be a little more pungent and sharp. Again, this is not a bad tasting herb, but you'll notice that like when you taste the leaf, it's a pungent flavor at first, and you have some of that sweetness as an aftertaste. So that pungent flavor, what it really tells us is that it is going to be warming, and it's going to be a good circulatory stimulant. So if somebody is very cold, if they need better circulation, if there's some brain fog and they just need better peripheral circulation to the brain and things like that, this can be a great herb. The other affinity and way it is used is in the digestive system. And again, with this mint family, you'll recognize, of course, peppermint, lemon balm. There's a lot of different ones that have affinities for the digestive system. So holy basil is no different. So it has some of the gas and bloating help. So it is a carminative herb. So it helps with expelling excess gas and bloating. Again, with that healthy circulation, especially even to the digestive system and really the whole body, it's going to mean better digestion overall with increased colon motility. So helping again with potentially constipation and things like that, if it is lack of circulation and lack of movement that is going on within the colon. So these circulatory stimulants that have also digestive help can be really great for a colon that's kind of cold, a little sluggish, and needs a little bit of help with the movement. And then probably one of the most well-known uses for holy basil, whenever you say the name holy basil, people are going to think stress or helping with the nervous system. And that is where I have used this herb a lot for clients as well, is helping with calming, helping as more of a sedative, and helping with someone who is really wound up and maybe high strung and they need some calming, herbs in their life. So again, it is considered a Nervine herb. It's calming without making you drowsy, which is great as well. So you don't have to worry about taking this herb during the day. It's going to be really great overall just for helping to tone down anxiety for a stressful lifestyle, and especially the American lifestyle that we live, and you're going all of these different places, and we're going to work, to baseball games and all of that stuff. So holy basil can be very helpful for this modern culture. It's great for nervous digestion as well. I don't know if you have ever noticed this or have known someone who has talked about how they may have a loose stool whenever they are stressed, or maybe it's the opposite. And with stress, they have constipation and their bowels aren't moving quite as well because there's a lot of connection with the nervous system in our digestion. So because we've already talked about this has a digestive system affinity and help to it, and it has a nervous system affinity, it can be the perfect herb for somebody who has symptoms of digestive upset when they are stressed. So that can be a great thing to keep in mind. I think of it helpful too whenever you're taking tests or studying and you just want a calming, focusing effect as well, because we're going to get a little bit more into talking about what it does for the brain. So it can help with racing thoughts because of anxiety, that scattered feeling because of anxiety, and just help you to really focus in and hone in on what you're doing. It is also uplifting to the mood. So something to just remember is Tulsi or holy basil, again, either way that you want to say that, has really, really helped with mild depression and heaviness. It's considered to help with heaviness in the body and feeling kind of stuck and stagnant and like lack of motivation, as well as in the brain too. So it's a really, really neat herb to kind of uplift you and kind of put you on the bright side of life and get you motivated and excited for what you have going and for the day. So that can be really, really helpful for a lot of people. It is considered, again, an adaptogen. So we know that adaptogens work on our adrenal health, which help us to essentially adapt to stress and help the resilience of our body respond to stress in a better way because we are built up and we are fortified. Of course, we know that that doesn't mean that we want to run ourselves into the ground and just take lots of adaptogens. We do have to work on the lifestyle aspect of stress and say no when we need to and do those things. But having adaptogens like holy basil can really, really help as something to support your adrenal health and your overall cortisol balance, which is that stress hormone coming from our adrenal glands. In studies, it has shown that it has helped to reduce excess levels of cortisol as well within mice. So it just goes to show that there's definitely great potential for it to help with cortisol. Again, with the sweet flavor that it has, again, it's like pungent, but a little bit of a sweet aftertaste. That sweet flavor really will clue us in that it is building and really rejuvenating for a worn out nervous system. So a lot of times that is where Indian medicine will use holy basil to help with someone who is very depleted, someone who really needs just building and fortifying because they've been under a long chronic time of stress, maybe a chronic sickness, or a difficult relationship, whatever you can think of, but that can really, really help with somebody who is very, very depleted from stress from long term. And then we also have, upper respiratory tract support whenever it comes to holy basil. So it's neat. It's so many uses for this herb, but there's definitely immune boosting effects as well. So it is an antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory. So really whenever you think of respiratory tract, we're kind of thinking like sinuses, nose, throat, not so much like lower lungs, but more upper, I would say more in the head and throat area is where it can really help as an expectorant, clearing mucus, being anti-inflammatory, and just really helping to expel congestion in the sinus type of area. It also is a diaphoretic, so that kind of goes along with the immune support as well, because it can, basically a diaphoretic means that it's going to raise your body temperature to stimulate a fever, in essence, to help your body to kill whatever it is fighting, whatever pathogen that it has come in contact with. It's going to raise the body temperature to help you sweat and help to expel toxins and kill whatever is going on within the body. So that is really, really neat. One thing that I thought was very fascinating, and this is a hot topic right now, but insulin metabolism and insulin resistance. Holy basil can really help with balancing blood sugar levels, which is really, really neat. Specifically for insulin resistance. It actually helps to sensitize the cellular receptors in the body for glucose and to be receptive to insulin again. And so that's really, really neat because, again, we have that lack of sensitivity in our cells. Sometimes when you have that insulin resistance factor, and that can resensitize the body. So our cells can take in the insulin so our cells can have the fuel of the glucose and of the foods that we are eating, so we can actually take in that glucose and everything. So that's really, really neat. Maybe something to look into when it comes to blood sugar balance for people that you may know. And the great thing about this is blood sugar balance. We talk about sugar, causing issues, right? And eating a high processed carbohydrate diet and things like that. And while that is really important for blood sugar balance, the lesser talked about issue with that is stress and how that actually affects our blood sugar. So think about how we have this Nervine calming sedative effect to holy basil, and then you pair that with helping with insulin metabolism, and you have just this beautiful herb that can hit two birds with one stone and really help with the blood sugar aspect in both ways. So that's a really, really great way to use this plant. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how it is a nootropic, which basically is helping to stimulate circulation to the brain, helping with brain fog, memory issues, a cloudy or foggy brain. It was an antidote, which is interesting, to smoking too much cannabis. So it's, really neat how holy basil can just really help to clear any foggy brain and lift any heaviness within the brain because of that nootropic effect that it has. And mostly I would say it is working because it is, again, increasing circulation to the brain, and then it is very calming on our nervous system. So obviously, if we're really stressed and scattered because of stress, we're not going to be thinking clearly. So we have that double effect of calming the nervous system and then increasing the circulation to the brain. So we can have good, sharp memory, quick thoughts, and no brain fog. And then, we'll talk a little bit about the energetics of the herb. If you'd like to kind of know a little bit more about the energetics, whether it is warming, cooling, drying, and so forth. So this plant in particular is warming because we see that pungent flavor is going to be increasing the circulation, having a warming effect on the body. The moisture is going to be more drying than moistening. And then the tone is going to be a relaxing effect on the body. So it's helping with tension in lots of different ways, thinking about not only in the brain and thinking about how it can help with stress and in the mind and mental tension, but also the physical body and physical tension from stress. And then we'll talk a little bit about the tissue states in the body that it can help with specifically. We have wind tension states. So again, tension in the body and the mind, it's really, really great for that. Cold depression tissue states. It's really great for uplifting the mind and the body, in cases of depression or constipation. Think about the physical body and that being cold and depressed, that can indicate constipation at times. So any coldness in the body and depression, whether in the body or mind, it's wonderful on those type of patterns. And then you have damp stagnation patterns. If you see that pattern in the body, think about the upper respiratory tract benefit that we talked about, congestion in the upper respiratory tract. That's a good example of damp stagnation in the body. So it can be really, really helpful for that tissue state when you see those symptoms going on. And then the TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine elements that is associated with this plant, holy basil, is the fire element. And we come to this conclusion because of the shape of the leaf. If you look at a picture of holy basil, it kind of comes to a point and it looks a little bit sharp on the ends of the leaves. And then it has like little hairs running along the stems, and it has kind of a sharpness kind of look to it. So, and again, thinking about the circulatory stimulant, helping with warming, heat, that is that fire element in TCM. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about practically how to use this herb. So we learned about a lot of the actions. We learned a lot of the energetics of the herb and the affinities for the certain organs. But going back to actually making it in your own kitchen, you can do lots of different things with holy basil. But one of my favorite ways to use it, because it tastes so great, is using it in an infusion or an herbal tea. So you can do that just fresh with the leaves. You could do it dried as well, but a lot of people prefer fresh holy basil tea in opposed to dried because of the essential oil component in the leaves. They do kind of feel that it helps it to be fresh to really capture the properties of the plant. So again, if I was brewing some tea, I would also probably cover that cup so that essential oil doesn't get released and lost in that steam while it is steeping. So you can kind of keep all of those good essential oils from the leaves in your cup of tea. A couple of tips on harvesting it if you were to grow it yourself. You do want to use, again, it's the aerial parts of the plant that you're using. That means the parts above the ground. You're not using the roots or anything like that. But you want to harvest it before, ideally, it has gone to seed. So it'll eventually, make these pretty purple flowers and then go to seed soon after that. But you really want to use it before it's gone to that point because it is the most potent as far as the properties are kind of closer to the leaves and the bottom of the plant and more of that middle part of the plant. And whenever it starts going to seed, some of that kind of gets lost because the plant is focused on regeneration and reproduction at that point. So you really want to get it before it goes to seed. And then it will die back in the fall because it is an annual plant. But you can harvest the seeds as well and then replant those next year and then continue to have holy basil really every year. So I hope this was helpful just to give you a good idea of how to use the plant and the reasons why I really love using holy basil. If you do decide to try it out, whether that is in a tea or a capsule, there's many different ways to use it. You'll definitely have to let me know how you liked it and what you thought about it and what things you noticed within the body. Well, we will talk more next time, but thanks so much for joining me on today's episode. Talk to you later.